Yeah.
You know?
It's very powerful, even for people who intellectually would agree with that. They still have to battle against those inclinations to look to others for leadership in different areas of their life. There's a lot of outward seeking,
Yeah.
because of the programming. So it's something you have to be kind of vigilant about, because I think we're all subjected to that, and it's harmful, but there's a way out, and my feeling is that the dam is kind of breaking.
It is.
It's very good news for a lot of people. Willing to look at it.
Yeah. I know, as long as you stay calm, because it's going to get more turbulent and they're going to become more desperate as they start losing more and more. They are losing control and coming up with crazy things like fake news. Right. Now we're not just alternative news now. Anything that you and I say here is going to be labeled fake news, and they want to censor that, right, as much as possible.
Yeah. How do you think it's going to work out for them?
Well, no, I don't. Look, here's the thing. This was a mistake to begin with. It's an anomaly. It's an illness. Okay. What he has done. What we are participating in is an insanity, and it's temporary, and it's cruel, and it's very destructive. But it's sort of quarantined within his little bubble that he created, his little fake universe. So his empire is corrupt. It's unsustainable. I don't see how it's going to last forever. Wes is telling me that there is a lot of internal strife, that the powers, the what do you call it there? The integrity of his empire was shaky to begin with, but it seems to be falling more and more apart.
Yeah.
And I do think this is because of the efforts of his family that are not infected. They have been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, much like what they did to me in a very short time. What they did, a matter of moments, what that individual was able to do to me or for me was amazing, And so I know they have some very advanced capabilities, but this is a very tricky situation, because it's essentially, the way it was described to me, is it's a hostage situation. That if they were to intervene too heavily, too quickly on our behalf, that Enki or Lucifer would simply just destroy this world, or maybe his entire universe, which would be criminal. But he obviously at this point he doesn't care. He's broken so many laws. But the thing is, they don't want anybody to be killed or suffer. It's just difficult because we're dealing with consciousness, and people have made some crazy choices, literally insane choices, like nuclear weapons for peace. What? They don't even work well for generating electricity.
Right.
They're highly inefficient, and
right.
Not to mention it's polluting the entire planet.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of. I'm not going to go through the list, but
yeah.
There's a lot of things that we have, I should say not all of us, enough of us have chosen that it's affecting everybody.
Right. It's kind of an 11th hour scenario. Hey, I wanted to ask you a few things. Are you aware of a Wes Penray discussion forum or anything like that that's on the internet now? Because
not that I know of. Oh, actually, wait a second. No, on his website there is something. I don't go there, but I believe he does have a chat room.
Okay, because I was on Ogtelis' site, and there was some reference to it there, but I was busy with some other research, and I couldn't get to it. Are you familiar with Ogtelis?
No.
You might want to jot that one down.
Okay.
He's apparently very interested in Wes Penray's work, and he's already done a lot of parallel type disclosures regarding his work.
How do you spell it?
It's AUG, capital, last name is capital TELLEZ.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the other question I had for you real quick is, are you familiar with the YouTube channel Titan Blooded?
No.
Okay, he's taking Wes's book sections and using a computer voice and using some nice graphics and actually reproducing a lot of Wes's material on a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Which if you can tolerate the computer voice, which in this case I didn't find that troubling for me. It wasn't that bad. Some of them are awful. You can't listen to them. This
Oh
one wasn't
God, yeah.
This one wasn't bad, at least by my estimation, which may not be saying much. But I think he's doing an outstanding job. He's got, I don't know,
Well, great.
20-something videos on there. And it's all
Excellent.
Wes's material. It's called Titan Blooded. And the other question I want to ask you real quick, that wasn't a question, but
Yeah, that's cool.
is the Black Knight.
Oh, the dark, yeah, the satellite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's real, and that's just one of Enki's many ways of surveilling us. I think we just discovered it back in the 50s. I think it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it isn't just technology. It's these mental parasites that I accidentally came across back in '85. They are watching us all the time. They know exactly how we feel and what we think, and they report that back to someone. I'm pretty sure that's why Lucifer confronted me that night after that event earlier that day. He wasn't responding to my call for help. He was there to make sure that I was not going to cause him any further trouble, or so he thought. But again, in retrospect, what I really believe happened was when those two different women approached me after my close encounter with him, and he basically erased part of my memory or blocked part of my memory from that night. But two women came and approached me the next day and told me they'd seen me that night, and basically gave me some sort of, again, it was like giving me hope that, well, first of all, it made me realize I wasn't going crazy. Because if I'm going insane, how could I be affecting those people? I didn't tell them anything, right? They're telling me, hey, I saw you and this is what we were doing, which completely fit with what was happening. And I thought, well, why are they telling me this? And like I said, it's just taken me almost 30 years to begin to have what I consider a credible conversation about the matter. Because it's so convoluted, and it's utterly covert. It's because they don't want us to know why they're here and what they want from us, and what is their ultimate agenda.
Right.
It's pretty nuts. But anyway, yeah, I do think the divine ones it's like a 9-dimensional chess game is what I tell people, and most of us are just pawns being pushed around and don't even realize it.
Right.
But yeah, so I do think that even though Enki Lucifer was making an effort to screw with me, like he does with everybody else, manipulate me, what was happening was the benevolent ones were also pulling strings very gently behind the scenes. And this is how I found that. Oh, I didn't even find that first book. What happened was I was sitting on the beach talking to a friend of mine, a neighbor, and he says, I've got a book you should read. He had never read it. He just intuitively, based on what I was telling him, he goes, he went back to his house, got this book off the shelf of his parents, that his parents had this book. He gave it to me and said, I think this would help you. And so he was just a messenger in that regard. And that's when I first read about Lucifer and, going insane. And
now this is which book was this now?
It's called Christ Consciousness.
Oh, that one.
At the time,
okay.
It was originally called Sunburst, The Return of the Ancients by Norman Paulson. And he's deceased now, but he did know my father. And in the sense that they both were disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, and that they studied Kriya Yoga. And Norman left the church at some point, where my dad stayed for a little bit longer. But yeah, they definitely knew each other, and it was during the 50s when there was a lot of so-called space brothers.
Yep.
Coming down.
Yep.
And Norman was having these weird experiences, and that's only part of what he wrote about in that book. But he did talk a lot about Lemuria and other things. But it was really interesting how it's been a natural progression, I think, of information that has. I guess you'd say, here's the deal: if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, sounds difficult, right? Unless you have a magnet. If you got a magnet, you're going to find it pretty damn quick. Well, in some ways, I feel like I've been magnetized by my contacts with these beings. So because I'm sort of like locked into this deal, it's like whenever I even get close to information that's related to what I'm looking for, it just sticks. And then it's my job to sort through it and kind of make something out of it that's comprehensible and then share it with people. Because I do feel like that's part of the deal that I have. Part of the agreement I have with the benevolent ones is we're going to make sure that you find all the information you need to help to find some clarity, put this in the proper context, but we want you to share it with the rest of your fellow man. So, as I was telling you off the air, this is sort of like a blessing and a curse. I realize it's a privilege to be able to serve, but sometimes it's just a pain. It really is. It's like this is work. This is a lot of work, man. It takes a lot of my life to focus on this. And honestly, I would not do anything differently. If I had it to all do over again, I would. In fact, I'd probably try a little bit harder, early on. Because I didn't know. Wow, it was tough. Early on, it was really hard because people were, honestly, the collective consciousness was not where it's at now. It has changed. It changed. And this was something that Wes really helped me understand. Between 87 and 2012, our collective consciousness has been raised just because the energy that's being broadcast or that we're surrounded by a higher frequency of energy, it's affecting our consciousness positively, right?
Yep.
But after 2012 to now, things have really accelerated. I think anybody who survived between 87 and 2012 is a completely different person than anything before that, and that where we're at now is a whole nother ballgame. I do think we've reached the tipping point. I know it's going to sound weird to people because things look screwed up still, and they are. But the thing is, so the fulcrum is like this. It's a lot of work to get to this point. But then when you get to the tipping point, it's all downhill from there. And I really think that's where it's headed. Yeah. I really see it. I really feel it because I do this work every day. I mean, all freaking day and night. There isn't any rest from this. I'm not asking for sympathy, people. I want you to understand that dealing with these entities it's not like I'm going to go fishing today and just says, screw this. It isn't like that. I tried. Believe me, I tried. Yeah. I didn't. There's been days when I wanted to just unplug. It doesn't work that way. So if nothing else, it's made me stronger on many different levels. And I think all of us actually who are going through this, at some point when we leave, it's going to be like, man, we're just going to be like super buff, and spiritually we're going to be really, really tough individuals.
I just had a vision of some, the old pull tabs on the beer can. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it's an interesting time to be alive because I do think that what's coming next, it's going to seem like really crazy, more craziness than we've ever seen. But at the same time, more people are going to have more clarity about the situation than ever. And because the stuff I talk about, it does seem really kind of nuts. And yet
dark.
Well, look, if I don't explain the problem, we're never going to work towards a solution. No, okay,
dark's not a problem for me. but
I know. Yeah. But some people have accused me that's like, oh, you're just one of those fear porn guys. No, I'm not. I am explaining the problem as I understand it, so that we can come up with some solutions. Now, I have my own personal, theories on how to behave. Yeah. To counteract this, though, as the antidote. But if somebody comes up with a different one, I'm all ears. Okay, yeah. I'm not here to. I'm not trying to start some new religion or anything.
No,
we just need to figure out first of all that we have a collective problem of our consciousness, and that's percolating down, and we're having all kinds of side effects from this illness. But I do think, in fact, I know people get it because I get email all the time from people all over the world. It started in 2011 when I first broke this story with my first article. I was blown away at how many people are aware of this problem and wanted or were relieved that somebody was actually talking about it openly now. It's like, wow. So I do think, based on that people are, what they say is a very interesting term. They say, I resonate with what you were saying, which is very good. That's a very good thing, because we are all waves. Consciousness is a wave, right?
Right.
So if my consciousness is really interacting with yours, you'll feel it. If you're healthy, you feel this. Like I said, it's sort of like empathy, but if it's just purely okay, that's emotional things. If we're talking about really emotional stuff, okay. But if it's just intellectual things that we're talking about, people say, "Oh, I resonate," you know.
Mm-hmm.
I resonate, we are, because we're on the same wavelength.
Right.
So I know
it's like harmonics. If you're standing in
Yes.
a room and there's a couple guitars laying around, and you go ping on one of the guitar strings, and that guitar over there, you hear it.
Yep.
Same thing.
That's it. That's what's happening. And it's not just me. There's a lot of people doing this work like yourself, and they're all over the world. And more importantly, the energy that we talked about between 87 and 2012, there was a lot more energy coming onto the planet, but I do think it's still going up. That was just the preparation. It's like anybody can survive that increase of energy. Okay, now we're really, you're in for the big deal. Okay, if you survive that, you're strong enough to do the next step, because it is incremental. Otherwise, it would just burn us out. If they had just tried to jump us from here to there, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. And believe me, I know what they're doing, because that's how when I met that divine goddess, whatever, when she had one of these tesseract crystals, and when I touched that, it was amazing the amount of energy that was coming into through my body, which I know was not just to heal me. There was a download, like unbelievable amount of it, just wham. It just like, so I know that a lot of the stuff that I'm coming across is actually familiar, because they'd already showed it to me.
Right.
It was like the whole thing just wham, and
I call it getting seeded. You get seeds.
I guess it makes sense, because like if you wanted to download a lot of stuff, like we can think of it now, it's all files, right? Folders. So each one of those folders could be a seed full of whatever.
Yeah.
So
the tree is in there. The tree is in the seed, right?
That's right. So the thing is, when she said, if you decide to say, we will do everything, we'll help, to help you, everything we can to help you, we will do everything we can to help you. That sounded good to me, but I think there was more to it. I think there was a reason. They weren't just being benevolent. They wanted me to stay and do what I've been doing. Right. Because it's dangerous for them to walk among us and have these conversations, and because of what we said before about people have this innate programming about which I think it's called the Stockholm syndrome by some, or Milgram syndrome by others. But it's like we feel this need to worship. So if they came among us, they're like, oh, show me the way, save me. And it's true for even like humans. If you have a little bit of information, they're like, oh, answer all my questions. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, wait a second. Mm-hmm. What about doing some research for yourself? I mean, think about it. Because honestly, everybody's unique. It's like I can't tell you everything. Right. And nobody can. That's not how it works.
Right. Exactly.
Anybody who says they have all the answers, you should be very cautious about.
You should run.
Yeah.
You should run. Hey, I wanted to ask you about some other resources that I found helpful. And if you may already know about them. Cara St. Louis.
No.
How about Harold Klaus Vella?
No.
Oh, goody. See, I was directed to you for a reason.
Absolutely.
So this is Kara's book that she wrote, Imagination Chronicles, and the second half of the book is written by Harold Klaus Vella, who's a scientific researcher from Germany, who's done probably the best job that I've run across explaining the technology of chemtrails, cell phone towers, and mind control technology. And he's got a beautiful presentation he's done on YouTube, and you can find it just by going on to Harold Klaus Vella. And so that's if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, which you and Wes address very well in your work. This is another resource.
Does he tie it in with the extraterrestrial agenda at all?
I think, there's some allusion to that in some places, but he's very much focused on the science behind it and being able to back up the, the published literature and how all of this stuff. Because I mean, there's all this debate, whatever, about chemtrails and what are they there for, and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that was very helpful to me is him actually explaining, well, how does the chemtrail chemical nanobots that we're ingesting through our food and whatnot, how does that work with the electromagnetic weapons that are being used against us, as from satellite technology, etc. So anyway, I have an engineering background, so I mean, I just really appreciated the way he put that together, but still in a way that you don't have to have an engineering background to understand what he's talking about here. He gets into Morgellons disease, and very well done. So anyway.
Do you remember? Did he mention anything about the Lily wave?
Not that he did talk about black goo, which was
new
to me.
Lily wave is something that Dr. John Lilly. He's famous for his research with dolphins, ketamine, things like that.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, he was kind of the impetus for the movie Altered States.
Okay.
Although it wasn't mushrooms, he was actually taking huge doses of ketamine. Anyway, the bottom line is he created this electronic wave that is good for controlling humans' thoughts, processes.
Okay.
He's done some really nasty things before he passed away for the military, but in any case, Patrick Flanagan is the guy that he invented the neurophone, which could basically project thoughts, or I should say sounds, into a person's skull.
Oh, the voice of God?
Kind of effort. Yeah, like that. Yeah. But he was talking about it, and he said that Flanagan said that he knew that the 60 kilohertz carrier wave is being superimposed is the Lily wave. If you just Google Lily wave, you'll find it, or Patrick Flanagan. What it is they have been doing. They've been doing hertz. Everything. 60 hertz. Sorry. Yeah. 60 hertz is the carrier wave that they superimpose the Lily wave on top of in order to control people. So whenever you're in your house, even they have this constant thing going on behind us. This is before they started doing all the cell phone towers. So it's incremental what they've been doing. But now this isn't just to torture us. Right. It's to augment us and turn us into something that's more useful to his agenda, which, based on my reading of Wes Penry's work, is that we will ultimately, I should say, are a contingency of us. A contingent. Sorry, I always get that mixed up. Yeah. Contingent of us, humans here, will be AI. Not just cyborgs. We will become his super soldiers to go and attack his family in the Court of Orion. He was trying to do that up until during the times of what we call Atlantis, but obviously his parents intervened and wiped out everything that was going on here, and possibly Mars as well. But the bottom line is that he reconstituted that whole thing, and America is now the new Atlantis. And so this is why they are gradually giving us more and more technology, making us feel like this is some kind of great innovation for the future, and it's not.
Right. Longevity, immortality.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Where does the soul go in an immortal body? Nowhere. It stays there.
Zero.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's they're trying to. It would give them further control over us for a longer period. And again, if we agree to it, this is the problem. If an individual agrees to it, there's nothing the benevolent ones can do to intervene on their behalf.
Right.
So this is again why Wes and I were working together to try and get this information out while there's still time, because something Wes told me recently, he goes, when Kurzweil said this is all going to happen by 2045, he says, I think that was a lie. He's telling me now that was actually just a way of lulling people into thinking it isn't going to happen any sooner than that, when in fact, especially if you read on that page, Technocide, the stuff that's in the news every day is telling us, wait a second, this stuff is like really pervasive, and it's getting stronger
and it's
more
already old.
integrated ever.
It's already old.
Ancient. In my opinion, it's ancient, but yeah, it's okay. It is old in the sense that anything that we hear about technology is usually at least 10 years old.
Right.
That's my understanding of how it works. I mean, and I did some work for Honda Research and Development, so I know that's pretty accurate as far as even just benign technologies, like, you know, for cars and stuff.
Yeah, earth-based stuff.
Yeah, just regular stuff.
Yeah.
But it is this all of these things have to be put into the proper context if we're going to understand why it's even happening and what it means to us as individuals, collective, whatever, souls. This isn't new, okay?
No.
But we have a role to play here as far as making a choice or a series of choices as to whether we want to participate in this crazy machine world that they're reconstituting again here and on Mars and the Moon. I mean, let's face it, this whole solar system is populated. It has been for a long time. It was taken over at some point in the past. A lot of things were destroyed and then rebuilt for Enki's empire. You know, one of the articles that I have it's called Digital Deception, and that's in my article section. And you can see stuff on Google that shouldn't be there. But I've also found out that Google will take stuff off. They use an airbrushing or the clone tool. They just clone stuff out. NASA used to use the airbrush. Well, now Google does it, but they just use the digital cloning, and they literally made some stuff disappear on their maps while I was sitting at this computer earlier this year. I was looking at some artifacts under the water in the Pacific, and they made it disappear while I was on the computer.
Wow.
And that freaked me out. I was like,
and that's what you're calling digital cloning?
Yeah, well, okay, look, if you wanted to make it, if this is a digital map, if you clone this piece here in Photoshop and then you paste it over here, part of my head is gone. You paste it again, and my whole head is gone.
Gotcha.
So it's like airbrushing, but they do it they do it digitally. They capture and paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and pretty soon now it's gone.
Right.
Problem for them is I had already done screen captures that actually have time and date codes on them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then which you can see in my article, I caught them, I busted them red-handed doing this. And like I said, either their artificial intelligence or somebody knew that what I was looking at and wanted to make it go away. Mm-hmm. Like I said, though, I had already done screen captures over multiple years, and I also then went and found on other digital maps that these objects were still visible, right? Because they can't control the other companies. Like Apple has one, and Bing, which is Microsoft, and so they screwed up there. They really screwed up. And as I was writing that article, I found somebody was saying, oh, if you look on, with Google Earth,
yes,
right, you can go to Mars or the Moon.
I know.
And those maps are really crappy. The resolution is horrible, but in some areas it's actually better than others because they use multiple sources to create these hybrid maps.
Right.
So this one YouTube video I saw said, yeah, here, look, it looks like giant hangar doors that are wide open on the surface of Mars. So I thought, well, come on. So I fired up my Google Earth and I went to the coordinates. I was like, wow, yeah, and they look like they're partially covered over. Some of them you can see, but others, it's like you could tell it's like they partially cloned it over.
Oh.
It's like airbrush, just part, not 100%, just enough.
Yeah.
Like, so you'd have to look really carefully. Anyway, again, that ended up being page 2. Okay. And then I thought, well, okay. They're doing all kinds of nonsense in their maps of Earth and Mars. I said, I'm going to go look at the Moon and see what that looks like in Google Earth. And man, the stuff that I saw there, it's just mind-boggling.
Right.
Absolutely mind-boggling. What they didn't cover up stuff because I don't think they even knew to look at. I mean, most of the Moon you can't see on Google Earth. I mean, you could see it, but it's like not okay. But there's roads there. there should be no roads there, man. Like, I'm from the Southwest. I know what a road in the desert looks like. Those are roads. Those are absolutely or foot trails up in the mountains near a building that's been partially. You can see the building enough of it. That's not a digital artifact. There's a difference between pixelization and actual objects.
Right. You sound like you might be familiar with Photoshop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. So, that's one of my hobbies is photography.
Okay.
But I would never create. I don't create stuff. I use Photoshop to do photo analysis.
Mm-hmm. I'll send you some interesting files I got on Moon and Mars and alleged base locations.
Well, it's not. And here's the thing. What I found was not so much bases as ruins of buildings that have appear to be blown up, and the geometry. Here's the thing, it's not just one. If this was a strip that they scanned, it's here. It's like, wait a second, wait a minute. You can't have the exact same thing. Oh, here, like that. That is way too regular for them to be lava tubes. Mm-hmm. Plus, when you zoom in on it, the geometry is so obvious. You can literally see that there's multiple stories of these buildings, that they're partially underground as well as above the ground. Mm-hmm. It's obvious to me, or anybody that looks at it, that they forgot. They didn't know that should have been airbrushed or cloned out as well.
Right.
But it's there. It's there.
Hey,
at least it was when I did my work.
There's another thing that Wes writes about that I found very interesting, and that's the raw material and the law of one.
Yeah.
And I know that could be a little contentious, but it was very, very intriguing to me because he brought up some things that I had difficulty with. A lot of the people in my circles are very attracted to that information and kind of use it as a benchmark for many other things, and or like the final say on this or that. And I've been kind of ambivalent about it myself personally. And then when I ran across Wes's writings on it, it was very intriguing to me, and so I wanted to ask you about that as well.
Well, I'm not sure when Wes wrote about that. I mean, he is definitely not a proponent of channeled material. He feels that it's all subject to manipulation. It's highly suspect. But we don't know who the entity was that's claiming to be Ra. If that was actually Ra, that would be a problem.
Well, it was actually identified itself as a collective, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there you go. That makes more sense, like the Council of Nine. It probably was the Council of Nine. However, they would be under this makes sense now. They were speaking for Ra because he is the ultimate authority here. At the time that they were doing the channeling sessions, Ra is the supreme. He would be the chief, the commander in chief here on this world at that time, and I think he still is. But that supposedly is going to change when Enki returns. His father is coming back, and the reason he's coming back is to make sure that everything goes according to his plans. Mm-hmm. Which isn't a good thing, and it'll be under false pretenses. And I think you probably heard me say this before. I'm going to remind people: when you see the United Nations and the Vatican uniting to welcome the return of the gods as our saviors, we're in deep shit at that point, people. I'm not going to mince words. That is a really big, huge red flag. And I'm not saying you should go out and protest these people. Just be aware of the fact of what they're doing. It's not for our benefit at all. So just put that in the back of your mind and think. Hopefully, prepare yourself for that, because it's going to be fairly soon, as far as I can tell.